the latest with Lamar? What's the timetable? What should they expect here?
So this is not unexpected. Lamar Jackson not playing this upcoming week against the Houston Texans. The Texans all week have been preparing as though they were likely to face Cooper Rush. You always have to respect the sort of quarterback, the sort of athlete that Lamar Jackson is. But as the week went on and Lamar Jackson was not practicing, it became very clear to Houston that they should be preparing for Cooper Rush. This is an injury with Lamar that I've talked about this ever since the injury happened here on CBS Sports HQ, that it's not clear when the injury took place. I know we keep showing that video of his final play against the Kansas City Chiefs. There's no obvious moment on that scramble and subsequent going to the ground where it is clear his hamstring pulled, right? And he had not really been looking like himself throughout that week, dating back to the week before as well. So there has been a thought that maybe this was an accumulation sort of injury over time. Now, he did not practice whatsoever this week, and so you have to wonder if this is going to bleed into next week when the Baltimore Ravens are going to be facing the Los Angeles Rams, because the Ravens do have a bye week after that Rams game. So it's the Texans, no Lamar and it's Cooper Rush. Next week it's the Rams. Maybe Cooper Rush, maybe Lamar comes back, but hamstrings, Mike, or as you well know, they're tricky. And so we could be looking at a 2-week layoff for Lamar Jackson so that he gets 3+ weeks to recover and return after the bye.
How concerned are you with the Ravens, JJ, considering the 1-3 start, the laundry list of injuries we just saw, and still a couple of weeks until the bye? Can they survive to the bye?
They can, because look at the schedule, right? Look at it after the bye, certainly compared to before the bye. As it stands right now, the only team that you would, with decent confidence, say is going to make the playoffs, the first one would be Week 14 against the Steelers, right? I mean, you look at it, and they played the Bills, they played the Lions, and the Chiefs. Those are 3 teams that could be in their respective conferences title games, right? So it's okay that they lost to them. 1-3 is concerning, 1-5 is concerning, and the injuries just continue to mount. And I say 1-5 because they're staring 1-5 in the face, right? They're about to face the league's top defense and the Houston Texans, which maybe they just got some things figured out offensively. You're playing a Rams team that, you know, if they had a special teams unit that didn't make huge, gigantic mistakes, you may be talking about an undefeated LA Rams team. So the Ravens won't be favored this week or next week. And if that goes that way, they're going to be 1-5 going into the bye, but a lighter schedule. The concern is that they are missing so many Pro Bowlers, especially on the defensive side. The one guy who was healthy, Kyle Hamilton, dealing with a groin issue that popped up during the game, then kind of continued on in the week, and he's questionable for this game against the Texans. Your one Pro Bowler that you should be able to rely on, Derrick Henry, has fumbled the ball away in the fourth quarter in 2 games and potentially cost you 2 wins. So things are bad for Baltimore. They can get better, but I don't know that they're going to get better this week, and I don't know if they're going to get better next week. You just have to consider after the bye, maybe that schedule gets a little bit lighter, guys get healthier, and then they can start to dig themselves out of the hole.
You know, for all of us watching Thursday Night Football last night, we saw the 49ers laundry list of injuries and then getting it done with a backup quarterback in Mac Jones. What's the faith like you're getting a sense of in Cooper Rush? We just saw his numbers a short while ago that, hey, maybe he can do the same thing, at least keep them afloat to the bye.
Yeah, you know, Cooper Rush has played pretty well when his number has been called, of course, playing for the Dallas Cowboys in place of Dak Prescott. You see the numbers right there. Those are great numbers for a backup quarterback. There's no question about it. The Ravens, though, are going to be doing different things offensively with him at quarterback than Lamar Jackson. Lamar's 1 of 1, and so you do have to change things in Todd Monken's offense. Now, perhaps they're going to attempt to run the ball a little bit more. We see that they have not done that this season. Perhaps they're going to try to set the tone early by pounding the rock with Derrick Henry, which I would say is probably a good idea. But are they going to be able to hold up? And not just offensively, but really just defensively. We're talking about Cooper Rush. That defense is so banged up. They're going to get so tired. Can they really go 4 quarters, or will the dam sort of break there as it has a couple of times already this season? So that's the concern for the Ravens. Not necessarily can Cooper Rush win you a couple of games. I think he has enough history to show you that he can do that. But with the other injuries and losing the value of Lamar Jackson and his arm and his legs, it's going to be a tough road and a tough hill to climb for Baltimore.
Certainly will be. Jonathan Jones, thank you so much for joining us. It is breaking news. Baltimore Ravens starting quarterback Lamar Jackson out this week against the Houston Texans with that hamstring injury. And, JJ just talked about it, why it's so compounding, because look at this list of injuries that the Ravens are dealing with. Now, as long as this isn't even all the names that are on the official list that just went out. There's about 15. I think there's 10 here. The Ravens going through it right now. This is a brutal amount of injuries that they have.
She usually has 6 49ers on her team, and they're all hurt too. So you're
true.
probably going to be okay. I think the number one option if you're looking for a streamer this week has got to be Bryce Young. He has not been good this year, but any starting quarterback against the Miami Dolphins has basically been the number one quarterback in fantasy so far this season. They and the Dallas Cowboys both giving up more than 29 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. I expect the Dolphins are going to score against Carolina. Carolina missing their starting running back. Should be a breakout game for both Bryce Young and Tedero McMillan, and Bryce Young still available on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. If you can't get him, then I think the guy a lot of people are looking towards is Jaxson Dart, and you hope you get that rushing production. I also like Tua a lot on the other side of that game.
I want Tua even with Tyreek Hill out. See if Jalen Waddle can shoulder the load there along with other guys like Darren Waller, too, had 2 touchdowns last week. All right, Jayden Daniels set to return for the Commanders under center this week, but no Terry McLaurin. Does that give you any caution or hesitancy in putting Jayden Daniels back in the starting lineup?
I think that there is a degree of downgrade for Jayden Daniels just because you'd expect the rushing to be a little bit lower. He doesn't have his number 1 wideout, although Deebo Samuel has played like a number 1 wideout so far this year. But with all the other injuries and buys we have in fantasy football, I'm still starting Jayden Daniels. I'm just not ranking him like a top 3 quarterback as I did in the preseason. Deebo Samuel, as you can see here, an absolute must-start smash play in this matchup. And I also think you can potentially go back to Zach Ertz at the tight end position. He's been down a couple of weeks, but he has a great connection with Jayden Daniels. Daniels doesn't have McLaurin. I would expect the targets to be pretty highly concentrated between Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz.
Let's do a little twofer here with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa, one of these teams has been bitten by the injury bug a little bit. Bucky Irving at running back is going to be out. Mike Evans at wide receiver, they're out this week. Which running back for Tampa do you trust? And are you good with, let's say, Chris Godwin now in the lineup?
Yeah, I think as far as running back goes, they've got 2 guys that are going to touch the football. It's Rachaad White, it's Sean Tucker. We expect White to handle the vast majority of the passing downs work, and he's been more efficient this year as a rusher early in the year. So I'm viewing White as a top 20 running back. I think maybe even closer